On top of the Daily Planet, Clark Kent watches the city the way a man watches the weather, half hoping for good news, half bracing for trouble. He's older now, more deliberate than the wide-eyed kid who once flew out of Kansas with nothing but a baseball glove and a sense of right. Clark's still clumsy with normal life, coffee stains, awkward interviews, but when trouble hits, he does what he always has. He becomes the person everyone argues about but quietly needs. Superman 2025 opens by reintroducing us to a Metropolis that feels both familiar and slightly off. Glass towers gleam, drones hum like bees, and people talk about truth the way they used to talk about traffic, constantly. Lois Lane is still on the front lines, a Pulitzer-winning reporter who's burned a few bridges and rebuilt better ones. Perry White runs the newsroom with the same gravelly impatience, and the Daily Planet remains a stubborn island of old-fashioned journalism in a world that thinks likes and clicks are the whole truth. Lex Luthor hasn't left the public eye either. Instead of capes and schemes, he now sports a buttoned suit and runs Luthor Dynamics, a tech behemoth selling solutions for a world fretting over climate, energy, and surveillance. The inciting incident looks small at first. A series of synchronized blackouts that ripple through the city, then the grid, then the entire eastern seaboard. People lose power, hospitals teeter, and rumors spread faster than the lights came back. Superman responds immediately, saving a bus from a collapsing overpass, rerouting a toppled oil tanker, and reassuring terrified citizens with that steady, somehow too handsome face. But he notices something else. Tiny, glittering slivers embedded in a toppled power tower, green as a promise and dangerous as a lie. Kryptonite, but modified, distributed, weaponized. We learn quickly that Lex's public project, the Prometheus Array, is supposed to be a clean energy marvel, siphoning solar radiation to power cities. What he's selling as salvation is also conveniently a huge engine he controls. The array, when synchronized with Luthor's satellite grid, can dampen solar emissions in localized regions, exactly the kind of thing that would make a being powered by the sun feel like he's standing under an umbrella in a storm. Lex denies everything, smiles inanely for the cameras, and offers a donation to the Daily Planet.
Lois smells something rotten and starts chasing paper trails, while Clark balances his reporter nose with the burden of being the one those trails lead to. Mid-movie is where the film tightens like a fist. Luthor flips a switch, or rather, he flips a PR narrative and a clandestine activation. The Prometheus Array goes live, the sky over Metropolis loses its midday bite, and Superman, hovering near a failing reactor, feels his strength ebb. For the first time in years, he hesitates mid-flight, then plummets, caught by a crowd that learns in real time that their god can be bruised. That vulnerability is new, and the film uses it like a scalpel, cutting into the idea of hero worship. Clark's ribs ache, not just from being hit, but from being suddenly painfully mortal in front of a city that has always counted on him to be anything but. Without his full power, Superman's moral and tactical weaknesses become painfully human. He can't bulldoze through Luthor's security, can't shrug off bullets, and for a while, he becomes a hunted man by state authorities who worry about a superpowered wild card, and by special interest groups who see his weakness as opportunity. Lois, refusing to sit idly by, digs up Luthor's shell companies, the off-books contracts, and a string of scientists who resigned suddenly and quietly. One of them, Dr. Maya Cortez, offers a crucial piece. Lex didn't just build a reactor, he engineered a system that could steal solar signatures and transmute them into a synthetic dampener, a technological kryptonite that could be deployed against anyone whose physiology depends on solar radiation. The film doesn't shy away from small human moments while the stakes rise. There's a quiet scene where Clark goes to his parents' farmhouse, flashbacks to Jonathan's simple lessons about humility, and Ma Kent reminding him that being strong doesn't mean you're not allowed to be scared. Lois and Clark argue in a kitchen that smells like coffee and regret. She calls him stubborn and naive, and he calls her relentless and alive. It's real, messy, and affectionate. You buy their history because you feel it in the way they both fold their hands when they're trying not to storm out. As Superman pieces together Luthor's endgame, the film pivots to action with moral weight. Lex wants to create dependence, cities paying Luthor Dynamics to protect their energy supply once the Prometheus array is necessary. Power in exchange for compliance. He imagines an America and world where he sells safety like a subscription. For him, the idea of crippling one alien is a feature, not a bug.
Lex believes he's protecting humanity by making it dependent on him alone. The film lets him be cunning and charismatic, which is scarier than cardboard villainy. The third act is a sprint. Superman, patched with makeshift tech from some of Lex's defectors and a lot of Lois's stubbornness, launches an assault on an offshore Prometheus hub. He's not invulnerable. He takes hits, he bleeds, and at one point he nearly drowns while trying to keep a collapsed platform from crushing a crew. In one of the better sacrificial beats, a group of ordinary dock workers rally around Superman, forming a human chain to save victims while he uses the last of his reserve energy to pry the reactor's core free from its mooring. It's an old superhero motif, powers backed up by people, and it lands because the movie made us care about the people before the spectacle. There's also a smart twist where Luthor's satellite array is turned against him. Maya and Lois manage to reroute the Prometheus core not to destroy it, but to amplify sunlight for a focused burst, an act that initially seems like it could kill Superman, but actually restores his energy by concentrating solar radiation in a controlled way. The logic is iffy in a hard sci-fi sense, but cinematically it feels earned. Science equals risk, journalism equals accountability, and human courage equals improvisation.
The climax is noisy, beautiful, and a little messy, exactly the way a big summer movie should be. Superman flies into the concentrated beam, absorbs the energy, and in an echo of earlier humility, he doesn't use the burst to annihilate Luthor. Instead, he exposes Lex's complicity to the world, live-streamed by the Daily Planet, and forces the man into a corner where his own hubris is his undoing. In the aftermath, Luthor faces sanctions, and the Prometheus array is dismantled. The film takes time to show consequences, hearings, lawsuits, and quieter reforms in energy policy. Clark and Lois don't get a sitcom ending, they get something better. Respect earned and trust slightly mended. Superman's final scenes are tender rather than triumphant. He helps rebuild a children's playground, listens to a kid's awkward attempt at a joke, and misses a date with Lois because Metropolis needs him that night. He's still heroic, but now he's also human-sized, a man who knows the weight of every life he can't automatically save. The movie's themes are clear, but never preached. Power used without accountability becomes dangerous, and trust must be earned by action, not promises. It wrestles with surveillance capitalism, celebrity morality, and the responsibility of one person to protect many. The script gives us a Luthor who's terrifying because he's plausible, a Lois who's the moral backbone, and a Superman whose strength is matched by his decency. There are moments of levity, Clark messing up a toast at a fundraiser, Superman photobombing a press selfie, and darker moments that linger, like a hospital blackout where paramedics improvise an oxygen line for a newborn. Superman 2025 closes on a hopeful note without sugarcoating the future. The city is bruised but rebuilding. Lois publishes a column that rips the mask off corporate warlords and names the people who helped in tiny, unsung ways. Clark kneels in a field outside Metropolis, touches the soil, and remembers his father telling him that the smallest acts of kindness are the ones that change the world. He flies up, not to vanquish a foe, but to circle the skyline and remind everyone below that someone is watching over them, not to rule, but to care. There's a quiet line, almost offhand, about truth being louder than any PR campaign, and you believe it because the film spent its runtime giving you people to root for. If you're in it for the action, the movie delivers.
Visually inventive set pieces, a few heart-stopping saves, and a finale that's tactile and noisy in the best way. If you're in it for character, it's thoughtful.